Hello, I'm Jon Cameron. I am another white guy in his 30s with brown hair down to my shoulders, longer depending on how long the pandemic goes. And behind me, I'm just in my home office. And today I'm going to give the Avalon updates. So I am the product owner for Avalon Media System, and I work at Indiana University Libraries, where I'm the digital media service manager. So I manage IU's audio and visual collections online for the library. And today I'm going to talk about what's new in Avalon over the past year. So what is Avalon Media System? Very quickly, it is a Samvera solution bundle that's designed primarily for audio and video access. So it's an access platform. We don't have a view to a lot of other things. We're primarily about getting stuff online and making it accessible, although we do have other features in the application for preservation or other sort of digital library things. It was jointly developed by IU and Northwestern for a very long time, only by IU since last year when Northwestern shifted to other priorities. And right now we're supported, or we were supported by grants from the Mellon Foundation and IMLS over the years. We're currently at version 7.1.1, and Avalon development is, as always, ongoing. So features that, what makes Avalon Avalon? Features we have that include, of course, handles AV as the primary purpose of the system to make it really easy for people to take their audiovisual materials and get them online. So in addition, we have other things that are sort of Avalon special features, such as really granular access control for right down to the user group, IP address level, directory groups. We also have things like playlists. We have a batch ingest feature. We have a fairly robust API for interacting both with the player and with data in the system. And then we have a lot of other sort of things that are special to AV, such as structural metadata, so defining, times and points of interest within a particular file for tracks or any other information that you might want to represent there. And then we have other things like, support for permalinks, sharing and embedding in the player, all sorts of different things. So the Avalon team, you can see everybody here on the slide. I want to say thanks to the whole Avalon team. Right now, it is everyone you see on the screen, and we are hiring for a lead software engineer position at the moment. So hopefully we can get someone into that position soon. Right now, we're much lower in staff than we would have been in the past, but we're still doing a lot, and I'm going to cover that in just a moment. I should say we also have a vacant software engineer position. So who's using Avalon? My last count was 18 institutions in production, and there are others that are currently evaluating and testing. So we have a list that's currently being updated. So one of the things that we want to do, as Julie mentions, we are looking for a vacation software engineer. So we're running a survey right now because we really want to know who's using Avalon in the community, what's their status, are they in production or not, are they interested in, so if you're using Avalon and you haven't taken the survey yet, please do so. We're trying to update everyone who uses Avalon, the partners, all that sort of stuff. So what's new in Avalon over the past year? So Avalon 7 came out in January 2020. So this included a lot of stuff. So Avalon 7 was a big release for us. It was our last release where we had the full team and people from Northwestern working on it as well. So we did a big redesign of the homepage. We added local user management, which was something that people were very interested in having in Avalon for a long time. We added a new transcoding pipeline. So we sloughed off a lot of dependencies, added a new transcoding dashboard where you can check out all the transcoding that's going on and check on it, and collections landing pages and collections indexes. So before we only had a sort of a basic blacklight interface for browsing and navigating the site, and with a lot of collections in the system, it can add up, and we really wanted a better way to present that. So we have this new collection interface where each collection has a landing page. There's a preview of material inside that collection. You can do a quick keyword search for quick results. And we have this sort of card layout that we've done on both the collections index and then with the collection itself on this page to view all the stuff within. So Avalon 7.1 came out in April 2020, sort of less of a major release, but the one thing that we really focused on in this release is API changes and updates. As we have more people using Avalon and for different purposes, making sure data gets in and out of the system in a programmatically easy way is really valuable. So all these changes allowed us to be able to dynamically create objects better using just the API, make sure that the stuff that people were getting back from the system were better, changing permissions so that those could be applied to API requests. So this makes it much easier now to interact with an Avalon based repository and interoperate. So this also had the various styling and visual improvements, bug fixes, more dependency removals. Each release, we sort of just keep removing these dependencies bit by bit. So Avalon 7.1.1, this was in July 2020. This was a much smaller release, but we did update a couple things. One is email and website contact fields for collections so that people are more easily able to get in touch with collection managers and things like that. So, somebody has an interest in a specific item in the system, how do they contact a specific person, or how do they find out more? A lot of the units and collections that are set up, in these sort of map to a specific service or departmental unit or something like that. And then we also added a lot of TripleF stuff. So TripleF auth support in the manifests that are generated from Avalon. So Avalon has supported TripleF 3.0 presentation manifests since release 6.5. So there is a route in Avalon that you can use to get the manifest for any item. And then there are also support for the probe service. So this is really proving out their TripleF manifest generation in ways that have really worked out. And then we did a bunch of improvements to our structural metadata editor, which I'll show in a moment. Okay, so Avalon 7.2, this is the one that is just about to be released. So in Avalon 7.2, we have a number of larger features again. So we added support for supplemental files. So that can be any binary file that you can associate with a item or a section in Avalon. Items in Avalon are the object, and then sections are the files. And we also revamped our file management UI. All the stuff that we had added for supplemental file support really made our interface cramped. And so we ended up rearranging some of the stuff and the layout just to make it easier to use. We also added an authentication page that comes up, and I'll show that off in a minute. Applying new permissions to items across a collection, and then these smaller Sidekick things. So we switched to using Sidekick from Rescue in an earlier Avalon release. And so this is, hey, we want to run our cron jobs via Sidekick, and then the Sidekick dashboard, which has always been available in a /jobs route, was added to our actual managed navigation. So all the navigation within Avalon for administrators sort of presents all of the stuff that you can actually get to in the system. Okay, yeah, supplemental files. So as I said, we revamped our manage files page because everything before was in this structure section over here, which was quickly overloaded both visually and semantically. And so we've moved all of the caption files and supplemental files to this view here, this manage files. So now clicking edit here will allow you to upload captions or any specific file. Files that can be uploaded are stored just in Fedora in the usual way. Unlike a lot of the media that goes through an Avalon, which is generally outside of Fedora in some other file store. Let's see. So another thing that we added is applying access controls across a collection. So this was always possible in the selection-based bulk management that we have available in Avalon. But it's really inconvenient to, via Blacklight, have to select, thousands of items in a collection and then apply access controls using like the bulk modal dialogues. So this instead is an extra button that we've added to the collections, the collections administrative page. So it just says apply to all existing items. So now, for example, if you add a group or a user to the default access controls for a collection, you can just apply it to every item within. And this is, just one of those time simming things that's been really, really of interest to users. And you can sort of see that a lot of these things are sort of based on user feedback, people actually using the system and saying, hey, I wish we had this or that. And this is definitely one of those things. So another thing we added was Authentication Flow. So before in Avalon, if you went to a restricted item, you were just basically bounced to the home page with a message. And that really wasn't going to work, since so much of the content that we have and might be available in other Avalons as well is restricted content that needs authentication before it can be accessed. And so we changed the authentication flow. So instead, users will land on this call to action page to say, hey, you're not signed in. This is even when students are signed in via single sign-on, they might still not be signed into the application, or whatever the case is. So this is something that's very nice. I think it can change. So besides the 7.2 release, which I mentioned is going to be released very soon, we have structural metadata updates. And the structural metadata editor is a React-based application that lives inside Avalon. It's this visual waveform-based interface for editing this structure, which we represent, or which we store as XML, that uses the BBC's Peaks.js waveform visualizer with some extra stuff. And so this is sort of a few bullet points of the past year in development. So this is kind of a thing that gets updated over time, lives in a separate repository, and then we just add the latest version of this to Avalon whenever we do a new release. So over the past year, we've done support for more granular time values, support for items without available audio data. So for example, a silent film where you want to be able to edit the metadata, you want to add chapters, but there's no audio data. And before, if there was no waveform information, the editor would just poop out. So space bars, finer precisions again, inline editing changes, all just to make it a little nicer of a user experience. And this structural metadata editor, in contrast with our sort of raw text XML-based editor, has really been heavily used. People really like this. It makes more sense to manage this visually, and I think it makes the time to create this sort of structural information much faster. So the other thing is Avalon Turnkey. So we've presented a number of times on Avalon Turnkey, but this is essentially, as that first bullet point says, our Docker-based turnkey deployment for AWS. So using Terraform provisioning, yeah, Avalon Turnkey is also what you might refer to it as. But it's really easy to get started. It's seeing minor tweaks here and there all the time. I expect that we'll see a lot more people using Avalon in AWS as things shift, or more people start to use cloud infrastructure for their applications hosting. But this is something that's also sort of just an ongoing thing that we've done a lot of work on over the past year. So what's next? So in the year ahead, we want to do another Avalon 7 release. We want to work on our TripleF media player. And then of course, we want to eventually create that Hyrax-based Avalon. So first, Avalon 7.3. So is much smaller feature set, but the things that we want to target here are improved support for analytics. In particular, adding Google Tag Manager tags for representing semantic information within the page. So right now, if you run analytics on an Avalon site, it'll be a little hard to parse just because of the way Avalon is set up. And so we want to really make it easier for people to be able to say, what's the usage in this particular collection or among this set of items, and be able to drill down in a much more meaningful way. And the other thing that we want to add is Open Graph Protocol support, which is those, oops, sorry about that. Cat stepped on my keyboard, if you can believe it. Oh my God, okay, come here. Here you go. All right, transcript display support is the other thing. Oh yeah. Open Graph Protocol. So those are when you put a link, into Slack or something, and it gives you that nice card that has, the poster image, descriptive metadata. It's sort of like that little bit for sharing and to embed content in other services or sites or social media, especially. And so transcript display support. So in Avalon 7.2, we're adding support for supplemental files of any kind. And they're
your slides aren't sharing.
Oh, my slides aren't sharing. Oh God, I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you. Transcript display support. So I want to support standard file types that you might see transcripts stored in, but we also want to do what's been implemented in a lot of other places in products such as Aviary or in other things in the community where you can have a transcript document that allows you to view transcript material or other textual material, time synced if available, alongside the media content. So you can have that interactive navigation. You can have, the sort of richer experience. Closed caption support we already have, but we want to take it to that next level, especially since we have more interest, in oral histories or other documents. Being able to store the document inside Avalon itself is a big thing. And then having that display support as well as the next step. And there's the TripleF media player. So this is our sort of in development next generation media player. Right now it is sort of, just a work in progress, but you can go check it out. I've got a screenshot here of our sort of standalone example environment where you can load in a TripleF manifest from a number of sources. So you can see here's one that we got from Princeton. And it will load it in the player. It will read structural information from the manifest, and it basically takes that manifest, parses it, runs it through the player, and it has it all there. But the advantage of this is, number one, TripleF natively. Right now in Avalon, the media player will take information from the app itself. But this is, generally designed to be a thing where we can have Avalon not only be able to produce that TripleF manifest, but also to consume it for the player itself. And then, be able to package it and make it available to the community. So we have like a really, really easy thing that anyone can take and bundle in their application and just throw on the page and use. So that's the goal. We have an upcoming community sprint. Please join us. It's going to be next month. You can check in with us about the details, but really we're going to work on tightening things up and packaging. And probably not in Avalon 7, but this will be the media player that we want to use for Avalon natively in the future. So the next thing is Avalon on Hyrax. So that's still our future. That's still our plan. We want to transition back to after 7.3 to going to working on Avalon on Hyrax. We still have a lot of work that was previously completed, and then a number of things that we will continue to work with the community on, either features in Hyrax that we need for Avalon or Avalon's particular modification of Hyrax. And of course, we will continue to be a part of community development. We'll stay with the latest in Hyrax and Valkyrie. We work to upgrade our models and test things out. And we'll continue to do so. So that's our 2021. And the last thing I want to mention before my time is up is the support for Avalon implementers. So more people are interested in using Avalon, and we're doing our best we can to help them out. So we have our discussion mailing list, we have our public Avalon channel and Samvera Slack. We do a monthly user roundtable that anyone's free to join and talk with us about Avalon. Generally, there'll be a topic or a thing I'm showing off. And then we have on our website, more ways to get in touch with us. And we also have paid support. So thanks, John, for this. It's, IU is working with Oberlin and Emory to get Avalon up and running in their institutions. So thank you very much. I think I'm at time.